Hello, everybody, and welcome back to 60 minutes of unscripted .NET entertainment, where our mission is to empower you, the .NET developer, to achieve more. I'm one of your hosts today, Katie Savage, here with David Pine.
Hello.
And we've already had a bit of a confusing morning, so if you're joining from the other stream, I am so sorry, that is my fault, but we just had to duplicate everything. We had to make it exciting because Erik is here with us, and we're super excited to have him. Erik, do you want to introduce yourself?
Thank you, Katie. Yes, my name is Erik Jensen, and I'm a .NET developer, and I've been a Microsoft MVP for a number of years. I started out as a data platform MVP, and recently I've been a developer technologies MVP. We'll find out later why that matters a little bit. Yeah.
Ooh, intriguing. Erik, what are we going to be talking about today?
We're going to talk about a whole portfolio of tools that I maintain. So I'm going to be a little bit selfish and promote some of my own tools.
Oh, we love that.
Yes, of course. I've kind of now reached a stage where I have like a little bit of a stack of tools that kind of go well together. So I will do a little demo of some of those tools, and we'll walk through some of the remaining ones at the end of the show. And my mission is basically to make life as a .NET developer that uses data access easier, both for the developer themselves, but certainly also for people that have to maintain the databases once those solutions have been put into production. And that's where I would not say DBA, but at least database developer perspective on things come into play.
And all the DBAs of the world, thank you for that. I'm curious, Erik.
I'm hoping both DBAs and developers thank me for that.
Yeah.
The general impression I get that people use my tools and are pleased with them. This is a little bit off topic of this, but I maintain a tool that has like 500,000 installations on Visual Studio, which is not a platform. But so there must be some people that are content with what I'm providing.
Yeah. Very humble. I was going to ask, how long have you been an MVP?
17 years.
Woo!
Oh,
yeah. Congratulations. That's amazing.
Thanks a lot.
That's awesome.
I see you repping the merch. You must have some good shirts and things.
I got this nice t-shirt at the summit last year. So yeah.
Love it. Awesome. Yeah. So shall we jump into it?
Yeah, let's do that.
There we go.
Let's go to and I'm sharing my screen now. Yes.
Yep.
So what are we going to be discussing today? I'm going to show some of the tools that I have created or participate in maintaining. I don't want to take all credit. And of course, I'm building on the shoulders of giants. So a lot of this is based on frameworks supplied by free .NET frameworks supplied by Microsoft. No secrets there. So this is about facing or dealing with some of the challenges you're facing when you are dealing with databases and the life cycle of changing databases during a development project and also during the production life cycle of a product. So some of the challenges that people face could be that the database is not under source control. They have to write really complex scripts to update their schemas. And the versioning of an app versus the database, which is managed, could be managed to different parts of the organization, is a nightmare. Maybe you get runtimes error in your database because you're not having tools that validate what you're doing with the database, similar to what you're doing when you're compiling code. So there's no standard approach to naming your database objects or other database design business rules. Maybe as a .NET developer, you're used to this. You have coding guidelines, you have analyzers that help you maintain a certain standard and a certain level of continuity across all the solutions you make, so things are easily recognizable, organized in the same way, easy to read, because naming, structure, and so on is the same for all the solutions that you're involved in. But when it comes to the database part, it's just complete chaos, potentially. You have no qualified review of your schema design. Maybe you're lacking that part, that capability on your team, and you have no cross-platform build and deployment support. There are tools from Microsoft that can help you with some of this, but some of these tools require that you build on Windows and deploy on Windows. So, and you have no proper NuGet integration. So like you cannot split your database schema into various parts and publish those as NuGets and share the best practices across your company or even with external partners. This is what are some of these challenges that this set of tools that I'm presenting will try to address. So what is the process when you're dealing with this? It's very similar to when you're creating code, but you're creating, instead of creating a C# class library or an executable, you're creating something called a SQL project. And then you can create or import scripts into that project. And having made that, added those scripts, those scripts are create statements that define your tables, your indexes, your foreign keys, your check constraints, everything that defines the schema, as it's called, of your database. Then you can run build process to syntax validate your scripts, and you can also run analysis to run static code analysis against your scripts. And the output of that process is, I would say, the output of publish is a backpack, similar to when you publish a C# project or solution. Then it can be a number of DLL files, maybe some other assets packed in a zip file. This output in this case is a backpack file, which is actually also just a zip file with a different extension. And then that is the piece that you can deploy against your test staging and production environments. So there's a lot of tools involved in this. Some of them are supplied by Microsoft, but I'm going to show a lot of some of the tools that I help maintain that allow you to do this in a cross-platform way and work both in VS Code, Visual Studio, and any other development environment that runs .NET. Everything I'm showing is pure .NET, but the code that we're manipulating is not C# code, it's SQL code instead. So without further ado, let's switch to the demo. So first, the requirements for using these tools is that you have the SDK installed. I happen to have that installed already. And another tool, another useful tool that we will be using in this process is Microsoft.sqlpackage. So we'll just install that. .NET tool install Microsoft.sqlpackage, and that is a Microsoft supplied tool, as you can see from the naming of it, and it's a command line tool that is distributed as a global .NET tool. So it's happened to have it already installed, so that was easy. And then I'm going to install some templates that will help me bootstrap my project. And I can do that with .NET new install. And then I will install some templates that I It's a project that I contribute to called MS Build SDK Supercharge. And it is a build SDK, so it's a special SDK for building database projects. And the output of that build is a DAG pack, as I mentioned earlier. So once templates, I think I already have the templates installed. It has this template package has the templates for creating a database project, and it also has templates for adding database objects like table, view, stored procedure, and so on to that project. So let's create a new project. And let's call it on.net demo. And we have a project created. You can see I will go to that folder and start Visual Studio Code and have a closer look at the, let's just have a look at the 4 files in that folder. So it's actually a CS proj file. And of course, CS stands for C#. And let's just say it's just a name of something that can contain a number of files. In this particular case, it will actually ignore any CS files in it, but it will do something with any files ending with SQL, all SQL scripts. So let's have a closer look at this file.
We do have several questions already coming in, so do you mind if I?
Yes.
Yeah. So yes. This one was from earlier, and
yes.
Andreas on YouTube was asking, what is the future of SSMS? Is it going to be around? Is there going to be like Visual Studio instead, or VS Code, or the Azure Data Studio?
That's a very good question. Azure Data Studio is being sunset, and it will disappear next year, I think. Basically, so the message is that it will cease to exist, and the functionality in Azure Data Studio for managing databases is slowly being moved to the MS SQL extension in Visual Studio Code. So that is the cross-platform story at the moment.
Okay.
But SSMS is alive and very well. Yeah, I don't think I'm breaking any NDAs by telling you that the team realized that they had many more users than they actually thought they had. So they decided to invest in it, and it's just been updated to use the newest Visual Studio shell. So it's basically now a Visual Studio SKU. So not just like you have Visual Studio Community, you have another SKU called SSMS. So it's really modern now and kept up to date with the same modern installation technology as Visual Studio currently is with the Visual Studio. So it's basically an item inside the Visual Studio installer.
Got it.
So it's alive and really well. Yes.
Awesome. And then we have another question here.
Yes.
This one's more controversial, but like, how do you convince a database developer to let them write Entity Framework instead of using their stored procedures?
We'll get back to that.
Okay, that's a good.
I don't think it's not controversial at all.
Okay.
That can easily coexist, but I'll explain that near the end when we come to one of my tools that actually enables you to do exactly that.
Perfect.
So, so this project file is now what we're looking at here. It has this special SDK and then a version number. If you have worked with .NET Aspire, you will see something similar to this. So it's like you can define your own SDK and do stuff with it that's not really normal, just building a DLL file in based on some C# code. So this is for building a database project, and it defines what SQL Server version we're targeting. And for now, I will just go in and disable code analysis. because we'll just start without that. And then we will have, you can see that it supports, it's a modern project file, XML-based project file. So it supports package references. And these package references are not to other DAC packs that represent parts or maybe even another database, but it's actually package references to some analyzer rules that I also publish. So let's go back to the command prompt and see how we can add a new file to this project. I could probably .NET new table, I think it was. Yes. So we'll just add an awesome table to our project. And if we look at our file, at our folder here, you will see there's a new file, awesome SQL. I will now go back to code, and you can see it's also appearing here. So this is just like a template for starting a create template, a create table statement. This is one way to do it. So basically, if you're a greenfield, you can create each of your individual objects, and maybe you get some help from the built-in editor because it understands the SQL extension and can help syntax check it and so on. Another approach is actually, yes, I already have, but Erik, I already have a database, and it's not under source control, but I would like to put it under source control. So what can you do there? Let's go to the terminal again. So that is one of the reasons why we installed the SQL package. It has the ability to extract files from an existing database. So it will extract all the files that define the schema, everything regarding create basically inside that database. Create table, create index, create view, create stored procedures, and so on. And it will then put those files in a non-existing folder. For quirky reasons, that folder should not exist. And I will just call it tables. I could also just call it objects or something like that, because it will actually now include everything. There's different options for the target file where you can specify what kind of directory structure you want your scripts to be output in, but of course after that has happened, you can always move them around and reorganize them the way you want them to be. So this is now, I'm now running this Microsoft SQL package tool to do this, and I have Northwind installed on a local SQL instance. And
this definitely seems like an opportunity for like a Visual Studio Code extension to sit on top of some of this functionality.
Yeah, I think there is actually a Visual Studio Code extension.
Okay.
This. Yeah, I'm just kind of showing that you don't need Visual Studio Code. It could be any other.
Yeah.
No mentioned. No. As it could be any other editor. Basically.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, I'm just, but there actually is. I think that there's definitely a Visual Studio Code extension for working with DAC packs, with SQL projects and DAC pack files, and I think it probably has a feature to do exactly what I'm doing here from the command line. So yeah. So with that, again, I also have the what is it called, the C# dev kit installed, so I can also look at this as a project file instead, or as a .NET project, because this has already created a solution file for me, and it will give me ability to, for example, build from inside Visual Studio Code, because I have this C# dev kit installed in Visual Studio Code. But obviously I could also just run .NET build. So what happened when I did the tables was that we got a tables folder here, which is a number of files. Each of the objects Yeah, so to some extent, I think index creations are together with the table, each of the objects inside the Northwind database. So yeah, we'll not dive into that, but let's just take an example. So it will the create table for the table region, which contains the primary key constraint and so on. But let's see what happens when we do a .NET build.
I actually, so I just learned that the C# dev kit in Visual Studio Code actually supports the tables view. I didn't realize that was even there, so that's awesome.
Yeah, magic.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now I'm doing I'm building, as you can see, I'm building a backpack because I'm using this other SDK. So the output of this is this backpack file, and this is basically a zip file that contains a definition in XML format of all the objects inside my project. So it will contain everything that's in the tables folder and everything that's in the include the awesome SQL table that we created at the start. So what does the build do? Well, it puts everything into the zip file, but in order to do that, it also verifies that the syntax of all these things inside the project are actually valid. So if I say I want to use a data type int x, so int is a SQL Server built-in data type, but I think it's actually called int x. You can see I'm already getting good tooling. I'm already getting some hints from the editor that I'm on a wrong path here. But let's just ignore that for now, and then do another build. And we're getting some bad errors here that says this is I don't know what int x is. So basically the build checks that all your scripts are valid SQL dialect, SQL Server SQL dialect, and that the types you define are in existence and so on. So I'm just trying to explain but that the distinction between analysis, which we will enable soon, and then just building. Building doesn't really care if we are not following best practices, if we have forgotten some indexes, if we are exposing ourselves to some potential security issues with SQL injection, all those things. The build doesn't really care about those because it doesn't have enough knowledge or opinions about stuff to have any say in that. It can only check that it's syntactically correct what we have written. So let's fix the syntax error here and go back. And now we will enable analysis in the project. So I will go up here and say run SQL code analysis true. So now I will do as part of the build, or rather after the build process, an analysis stage will run, and it will use rules that are defined in these packages that referred down here. And it will take those rules and execute them against all of the objects defined in the database. And then it will report back if there are any rule violations. Similar to when you're using Roslyn analyzers. If you're using Roslyn analyzers, it will be relatively similar to this. So let's do another .NET build. So now it's again doing the same check, but now it took a little longer to do the build because it's actually evaluating about more than 150 rules and running those rules against each of the files in this project. And I mean, I didn't design Northwind, but you can see there's like things that you can argue whether you should not really consider some violation of a rule or not. And also there's a link to the rules down here in the output where you can read more about them. Let's just try to click on one of them. So all the rules are documented here on GitHub, like with summary of examples of violations and things like that. So so these rules are opinionated. And if you have been working with Roslyn analyzers, sometimes you as a team decide that this rule doesn't really apply to us. And in a similar way, you can decide that this rule say start identity column used in a primary key with a seed of 1,000 or higher. And we can actually go here and read about it.
And you mentioned Roslyn Analyzer, so is that's what's actually powering these warnings?
No, it's actually something else that predates Roslyn Analyzers. Yeah, so it's not. It could have been, but it came before.
Sure, no, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's conceptually it's quite similar. Yeah.
Are like you can configure them then similar to like how you do?
You can configure them kind of similar to what you do with Roslyn analyzers. Not exactly the same way. It doesn't really have an edit. There's no concept of editor concept involved here. It's different knobs you have to turn, but
yeah,
but the end result is the same. You can disable individual rules. So let's try to do that in our project. Maybe we have 359 warnings when we did the build. So let's try to say, just for starters, that we don't really want to code. So we don't really want this this rule here, this SRD10 rule, because it's just making a lot of noise and we're not really interested in it. And the same with this SRN7. There are better tools for viewing these logs than a console as well. I'm sorry about this.
Oh, no worries, no worries.
Yeah. But let's see here. Let's SQL Server. Rules. So you have to put the namespace of the rule and then the actual ID of the rule here, and then a hyphen in front, 0010, meaning this is the design rule. And I don't know why we're getting another line there.
It's trying to recommend.
Copilot is being helpful. Yes.
I think there might be a typo though. I think that's why it's recommending it. An analysis. Should it be an I between the S?
It should analysis. Thank you.
Nope.
Yeah.
Click. Yeah, just click on the one.
It actually recommended a spelling correction, which was extremely helpful. So that's good. Yeah. So let's try to do a build again. And if I was able to do any kind of non-spelling errors, we reduced the number of warnings by a little bit here. But
nice.
I think you get the drift.
Yeah,
so this is
absolutely.
Like you can disable a rule for the whole project by adding this kind of quirky syntax here, and then you can have semicolon, and you can do another rule.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there's rule sets, and there's rule sets for design issues. There's rule sets for naming. So recommendations for kind of company rules for naming, and there's also some performance rules.
So it's very customizable, is what I'm hearing.
It's very customizable, and you can decide what you can do. This you can even exclude like whole rule sets with wildcards. Like I don't want SQL Server rules, or I don't want the design rules to apply to this project. So it's pretty customizable.
Are you able to define your own rules, like custom
That's
rules?
exactly very, very, very good question, David, because that's the next thing I'm coming to. Yes,
Nice.
you can create your own rules, and I think there are some samples on some very good up-to-date samples on Learn, and I think the team also created created a template for creating a rule. So you can install like a template pack, not the one I'm using here, but another one, and then get started with creating your own rule. We won't go into that in this session because it's a little bit of a it could be a little bit of a dark hole, but it's not because it's hard to create the rule, but it's kind of a little bit of a separate session for doing that, basically.
That'll be
Sure,
next
yeah.
time you come on.
Next time around, exactly. So So, and you can also create, again, a little bit quirky because this is quite old. This is actually a technology initially started creation in like 2006-7 and first appeared in Visual Studio 2010. And then this whole framework was ported to run with not just .NET framework, but of course just proper .NET as we know it today. So yeah, there's a little bit of history there. But the gist of it is you can disable rules on a project level like this, but you can actually also disable rules for individual files. Again, there's a little bit of quirky syntax. We won't go into that, but you can see an example of doing that on the repo that I shared the link to in the session notes or whatever it is, how it's presented in the various media. So yeah, so this is now we can get syntax checking, but not only that, we can actually have like a virtual, I didn't say AI, but like a virtual DBA looking over our shoulder and saying, Erik, I have over many years, I have gathered this knowledge, wisdom, whatever, these opinions about how things should be designed that have certainly well, and you can learn from them. And I can see that in this particular case, you're not following this best practice. So, and this is what you need to do to fix it.
I'm going to start saying artificial wisdom instead of artificial intelligence.
I love that. Yeah.
Way more whimsical.
Yeah, but you get my drift. Yes.
I get you.
So, yeah. So this is like the whole life cycle. So the last part of it is now I have this database. I think in some context it's called like an artifact, which is this dark pack. Is similar to like the zip file that represents your build, and then how do I get that deployed? Basically, the tool that I showed before, SQL package. We'll just go back to the console here, and I will type SQL package. If I just type this, there's a lot of help text here. It doesn't really show the actions because there's too much text on the screen. Never mind. SQL package has a number of actions, and one of the actions that we did use was this extract, but it also has an action called publish, and that will take like a connection string, like a target connection string in this case, and then the path to your darkpack file. And then it will look at the target, which is your, for example, your production or staging database, and then it will say, and then it also take the darkpack model or the description of what you want your database to look like, and say, in order to get to that state described in what the darkpack wants me to do, I need to make these changes to the database. and I will make those changes without any data loss. So it will basically, for the normal simple case, it will just do an alter table, add column, new column, or it will do create table, or drop an index and then recreate it with a new definition, and various actions like that that will not destroy data.
So we've got, I think, a somewhat timely question here from Stefano on YouTube. He's saying that this is very interesting from a schema point of view, but what about storing, versioning, and applying configuration data, like with inserts and updates?
Yeah, very, very good question. It's possible, and the approach that I usually take to that is that you can actually run some scripts after the schema massaging has taken place. You can author a script called a post-deployment script, and that post-deployment script can actually be composed from multiple scripts for easier manageability. At the end of the day, that script is merged into a single potentially big script called post-deploy, and then included inside the DACPack file, and that can contain insert statements, but that is going to fail on the second run. But a different approach is it can contain merge statements.
Okay.
That will either update or insert rows depending on whether they exist or not. So it will basically contain code to do what you could call an upsert.
That's awesome. Yeah, lots of really good questions and great answers here.
But
So
it's a really, really good question. And I usually use a nice stored procedure that you can point to a table, and a table with existing data like lookup data, and then it will actually generate a pretty solid merge statement based on again years of experience that you can use and then incorporate into this post-deployment script.
Awesome.
Cool. So with that, we now have the full life cycle of the product. But what if you just want to basically you're sitting authoring and you're not worried about DACPacks, but you basically just want some good advice on what you are creating here now. Then I have another tool, of course, called T-SQL Analyze. I will not install it because I have it installed already. So we'll go through what it's actually called in NuGet. All the tools I'm showing here are published as some variety of NuGet package, but we'll get back to this when we walk through them. T-SQL Analyze is a command line tool that will do ad hoc analysis of SQL scripts. So if we run this, it's a little bit like running the build we saw before. It will just take all the files, all the SQL files where I am and below, and just analyze them, and we'll do something that looks pretty similar to what we saw before, and it will report again some things that we could do better with some links to the rules, etc.
I like that it shows that, like it says using Microsoft rules data smells, which is interesting, like code smells, right?
Yeah, code smells, exactly.
Love it, love it.
Yes. Thank you. So this tool is basically I do my deployment in a different way. I don't want Erik to come in and post doing DACPacks or whatever, or anybody else for that matter.
Sure.
But I would actually like the help that these rules can provide.
Mm-hmm.
And you can hook in your own rules when you're running this tool. Just point to the DLL with your own rules, and again you can also specify on the command line. You can specify on the command line that again this rule this list of rules that you want to ignore. It can also do silly things like reformatting all your SQL scripts, and it can unpack a Fabric zip file with SQL files inside it and also analyze those. But at the end of the day, it's just looking at some SQL script files and then running these analysis rules against something you pointed to, and then there's various level of abstractions on top of that. So this is like, this tool can also be hooked into like Management Studio and SSMS, things like that.
And I'm thinking too, because my involvement with .NET Aspire, I'm imagining situations where this could be like a dashboard custom command on like a SQL database resource.
A custom command on a, yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Good thinking, good idea, David Bill. Yeah. So yeah, but it's somebody, I was presenting this other tool stack and somebody asked, could we just run these tools from the command line? I said, yeah, why not? So
yeah, love it. That's awesome.
End up creating this, and yeah, it gets better because because it turns out that once you have a .NET CLI tool, it's actually not too hard to take it to the next level, which is making it into a MCP server.
Oh, okay, yeah. So we are going to talk about AI. I mean, what?
Artificial wisdom. Okay, don't forget.
So here we are in Visual Studio Code with this awesome SQL, the awesome.sql script that I initially created based on this template, and it looks fine to me. I can't see why there should be any problems with it, but maybe we could ask Copilot. I'm in agent mode.
Yep, you have to be in agent mode for MCPs.
You have to be in agent mode to use a tool.
Allow me to set the stage real quick. So for those of you who are unfamiliar with AI, holistically, you've got a couple years of catching up to do. But MCP servers are a major thing. In the last 6 months, they took off through Anthropic, and it stands for Model Context Protocol. And what it really does is helps add almost a sense of like determinism to your AI models, in that they can expose resources, tools, and prompts to an AI, like a large language model. And then it can use your natural language to then tie back to the MCP, and the MCP can then invoke deterministic code to run and do things, which are really, really compelling.
It is very, very cool. And not only that, recently NuGet enabled a new package type called an MCP server. I just blogged about this. So you can actually publish your .NET tool. You can decorate your .NET tool, if it also can act as an MCP server, of course, and publish it as a MCP server. And then, of course, the next stage, which is not there yet, is that Copilot and other AI clients, so to speak, can now interact with this registry of MCP servers and maybe even propose some tools that you don't have installed.
I did not know that. That's awesome.
It's really coming up. So, yeah. So, and you also need to configure your tools. So I have already installed my T-SQL Analyzer tool. It's basically a hyperlink. You have to, for purposes of getting it installed into Visual Studio Code, it's a hyperlink, and that hyperlink is on the README page of this command line tool on NuGet, and of course also on GitHub. But yeah, so this basically, you have to click this hyperlink and say, yes, I trust this tool, and I would like to install it in my to enable it as a tool in Visual Studio Code, and then it gets saved to a settings file inside Visual Studio Code. So now I can say, please check this file for bad So please check this file for bad SQL practices.
And so what the AI is doing is it's mapping to your MCP server function because you've decorated it such that it can discover the SQL problems.
Yes, and it will say, okay, in order to do that, it will actually ask me for permission to run the Find SQL Script Problems tool in the T-SQL Analyzer MCP server. And this is what it will send to it. So it will send a parameter called SQL script and the entire script to create the table. That's fine with me. Go ahead, be my guest and see what you can do.
Be my agent.
Be my agent, exactly. So it's now, it was scrolling a little bit faster. So it said it found a primary key constraint without a name, and that's true. The primary key should have a name, and it doesn't. And it actually violates the SRN 0007 rule. So this is what is proposing. Here's the improved version.
Or alternatively in one line. I love that. So you can just really, you could take that suggestion.
Please fix it. I don't know if that works, but yeah, it does. So now it's proposing to do the fix for me. Yeah, I think that's pretty neat.
That is amazing. That's awesome. I love it.
Yeah, and everything I have showed you today, of course, is free and open source.
And Erik, quickly, somebody did follow up. They said, "Oh, I missed that part real quick. Like, how did you get the MCP from NuGet, and how was it named?"
How do you get the MCP from NuGet? We'll go through all the tools, and I will show you.
So coming soon. Basically.
It's coming soon, yeah. So now we go back to our slides. We talked about sqlpackage, which is this command line tool for doing publishing and extract. It can do other stuff as well, but that's beside the point. 2 elements of sqlpackage are actually open source, maintained by Microsoft. It has a script parser element, which is called SQL script DOM, and that is open source. And it has SQL client, which is like the piece that communicates with SQL Server over the network and translate what is on the network to something that C# can understand. The DACFX itself, which is this framework that it's all building on, is currently closed source and yeah, probably remain like that for the foreseeable future. So let's go through the various tools. These are tools that I contribute to or maintain, or like this, yeah, like the project owner, whatever. This project I'm a major contributor to, together with some other guys. But yeah, so this is like the template I started with. So this is a really good way to bootstrap using this build project. And then of course the build project itself, it kind of comes indirectly with the fact that you are using the templates. And Microsoft has an alternative to this called Microsoft build.sql. It doesn't work so well in Visual Studio. This project type works well in all development environments. Yeah, enough said. So you can also use.
I love it.
Yeah, but this came like, yeah. No, I'm not. Then don't we don't want to go there. You can. The nice thing about this is that you can do modern. You can do modern .NET infrastructure with NuGet packages, either in your own feeds or in public feeds, where you can reference another DAC pack that represents parts of elements of your database, but it can also represent another database that you are referring to. So like if you have a view that selects something from another table, then you can have all that incorporated with a
Wow.
like a big infrastructure NuGet packages. And you can also reference analyzer rules like we saw earlier. That's also a little bit of an advanced topic to have these cross database references, but it's technically possible and it works.
Well, I wanted to
yeah.
say something. Like there was a question earlier on, and I
Mhm.
feel that we're kind of getting to the point where we're addressing it, where
Yeah.
they were talking about like, convincing the database dev, stored procedures versus using EF, and well, like with these rules in place and like this, being able to analyze all this stuff, and I mean it's hard to really argue against not having that type of functionality, because it's like, I don't think some of those DBA tools can do some of the things that we're seeing here that you're exploiting. Like it's like years of experience with interacting from .NET side, invoking these connections and databases and all these things. So it's really cool.
Exactly. So these are the NuGet packages that contain. This is one of the NuGet packages that contains the rule. I have another one called the smells one, and it together we're talking 140 rules, and these are actually some rules I found some abandoned GitHub repos and resurrected them for modern.net. And I also added a few additional rules based on input from some good community people. Yes, so these are not rules that I just invented. These are rules that are based on years and years of experience working with database design and SQL Server. So the SQL Analyzer is a library that exposes the functionality that are showed in the command line tool. So if you want to incorporate the ability to run analysis in something, some app, whatever you're creating yourself, you can use this NuGet package, because this is what the command line tool is using. And then of course the command line tool itself, which is as we saw, a command line tool for just running ad hoc analysis of something called .sql at the end. And then we also saw that it's not only that, but it's actually an MCP server. And if you look closely on this screenshot here from NuGet.org, you can see that they're now kind of advertising the fact that this is an MCP server, because I have told NuGet that it is, and then they're showing like this is a snippet you need to enable it in various clients, like for example Visual Studio, Visual Studio Code, etc., and Claude, or whatever they're all called. So
I love it.
And
let's
take it to the next level. If you want to use the output of this project, your DocPack file, with Aspire, then you can use this community toolkit hosting package called the very, very nice and simple name, Community Toolkit Aspire Hosting .SQL Database Projects. It basically enables you to boot up a SQL container and then publish your DocPack to that container. And that DocPack could potentially, as we already discussed, contain some seeding data. So that means at the time you have done that, and if you wait for that to finish, and before you start your API or your interactive web app, then your database will be fully operational with a full schema and maybe even some seeding or test data in it, and you can start working with it right away.
I just shared the link here to the Aspire documentation that actually covers this community toolkit project.
Yes,
so.
yes. You have a very nice setup for being able to contribute to this community toolkit Aspire. I know you're a little bit involved in that, David. So yeah, and it's really, really, it's really easy to get on board and provide something that you think will add value to Aspire, and then also the ability to author some documentation with the help from people like you, David. So
thank you.
And we talked about EF Core. So let me just take. Now we did talk about the Visual Studio extension earlier, but that Visual Studio extension, parts of that Visual Studio extension, is also available as a cross-platform command line tool called the very simple name er.efcorepowertools.cli, EFCPT for short, and that can take a dark pack, which can contain views, stored procedures, functions, and of course tables, and generate a DB context based on that dark pack. So this was a question we had about, but what about stored procedures? So this is not part of standard EF Core, but this additional community tool enables you to use stored procedures and user-defined functions inside SQL Server as if they were participating in your DB context, so to speak. So they become methods on your DB context, or they return classes that you can use in C# and so on, if it's a stored procedure returning some results and so on. Yeah, it's go and try it. Yeah.
And does that name Power Tools have something in common with Power Apps from Microsoft Office, or is it more just like
no,
Power
it's just
Tools?
I think it was actually, there was something called Entity Framework Power Tools back in the day, and it was just like a grab bag of things you could do with the old Entity Framework for .NET Framework, and then I just, in agreement with the EF Core team, I got the right to use it for the new Entity Framework, which is called EF Core. So
Love it.
yes. Yeah. I don't know if you can use this. Is it a QR code? Sorry, I don't know what it is. Yeah. It will take you to a link with some link. It will take you to a GitHub gist with some links.
Okay, I was gonna say let's be sure we're sharing QR codes that we know where they're going.
That's why I'm telling you. Yeah, it will take you to a GitHub gist, and it has some links in it to some of the things I've been showing here. So basically, my call to action is, add your database schema to source control if you haven't done that already, and take advantage of code analysis to have this little. It will make life both for you and for people that have to deal with the output of your efforts much better, because you have this like virtual DBA nagging you, and you don't have to meet with that person in person, but you can just have him saying it quietly to you in some rules violations. And you can even create your own rules, as we discussed earlier.
Yep.
Maybe even contribute them back to the community. And of course, go and provide feedback on all these tools.
Amazing. David, do you think we have time for a question or two, or is it wrap-up time?
We do have two questions here. We'll start kind of shutting her down a bit. All right. Yep. So the first question is there a situation not to use Entity Framework and choose other libs when planning a new app?
I guess that question is about which is an alternative ORM I should be using.
Yeah.
I guess so. No. There's always there's always discussion. I see sadly on Twitter still people trying to get some traction, asking, "Oh, should I be using Dapper or should I be using EF Core for whatever reasons?" There's no. I'm not here to bash Dapper, but you can just use EF Core. It's just as fast as Dapper if it's speed you're looking for. In some instances, it's even faster because they're just more modern and more effort than Dapper has been or is or whatever.
Sure.
So and I mean, in Hibernate, yeah, I think it's just use EF Core. And again, if you use EF Core with EF Core Power Tools, you can still use stored procedures, functions, if that's part of your legacy database. So
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
Well, this has been great. I'm super grateful to have been a part of this. So thank you very much for that. And I'll let Katie shut her down.
Totally. Yeah. Thank you, everyone, so much. Erik, thank you. I know I learned a lot. I hope everyone else learned a lot as well.
And if you have any questions that were left unanswered, feel free to reach out either on Blue Sky or on GitHub or whatever. I'm there to help.
Erik is open to your questions. You heard it here
Love it.
first. And join us next week, same time, same place. We're going to be talking a little bit of distributed applications with Microsoft Orleans. So it should be a good one.
Awesome. All right. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Bye.
Bye.